What up, everybody? What up, everybody? What up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of AC Reviews the World. I am your host, AC the Engineer, and we are at episode 106. Yep, episode 106 now, moving on up. Like I said, if y'all know what I've said in the past, I'm trying to get the One Piece number, so we're going to get up to like 1,000, 1,100. We're gonna keep going. We're going to keep going. And we're going to keep this train moving. But it is Monday, January 12th, 2026. And it's the beginning of the week, y'all. That means we got a lot of stuff to talk about, a lot of things to catch up on. The world is a crazy place, and we got a lot of things to review together. Today, we're going to be reviewing, we got some U-Hauls plowing through protesters. We got Mississippi mass shootings, nurses strikes, and then we got an arrest made from the Ohio couple murder that we talked about before. So we got a lot of things to talk about. Remember, y'all, just do a little housekeeping. Remember, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell so you can be up to date on all the videos. If you have anything you want me to review, you can always send it to my email. My email is acreviewstheworld@gmail.com, a dot after A and a dot after the C. Make sure you always drink your water, y'all. But you know how I like to do it. Let's jump right into it. What Future say?
Sensational.
Yes, let's have a sensational show today. Remember, y'all, this is the greatest afternoon show. At least that's how I feel. You ain't got to feel it. But this is the greatest afternoon show in the world. But let's jump over into it. You know how I like to do. The first topic we're going to be discussing today is the U-Haul stuff. So we're going to go over it. It looks like a U-Haul plows through an LA protest. Let's get over into it. It's always something, but let's get over into it and see what we can learn from this situation. Some people are crazy, but let's get into it. Let's get right into it.
Terrifying moments in Los Angeles. This is Sunday. A driver of a U-Haul truck plows into a crowd of people supporting those ongoing protests in Iran. The angry protesters responding by pounding on the U-Haul, shattering its windshield. That truck, though, eventually stopped. The driver was taken into custody. News Nation's Nancy Liu is live in Los Angeles. So, Nancy, what more can you tell us about what happened?
Well, Nicole, that U-Haul truck, it's been towed away. Thousands of protesters they have cleared, and charges are pending against the counter-protester who allegedly used that truck as a weapon. The crowd was estimated to be about 3,000 here outside the Wilshire Federal Building when the U-Haul truck came barreling through. This was around 3 o'clock yesterday afternoon. Remarkably, the incident caused no significant injuries among the demonstrators who had turned out in solidarity of protesters in Iran. On the side of the U-Haul was a banner that said, "No Shah, no regime, USA, don't repeat 1953, no mullah." When the U-Haul stopped, the crowd descended on the driver, who was eventually taken into police custody. According to the DOJ, the FBI is working with LAPD to determine the motive of the man in custody. Now, at this point, no charges in the case, as Mayor Karen Bass calls for all protest actions to remain peaceful. And here in LA, that also includes continued anti-ICE activity at the Federal Detention Center downtown. Nicole?
Nancy.
That is the main thing. Protests should remain peaceful. They said anti-protester, so he was probably on the other side. That's what it sounds like from the sign that he had on the U-Haul. So he was protesting for the opposite what the other protesters was doing. I don't know what was going through his mind. Why would you drive through the crowd? Maybe to make a stance or to get more visibility on his own protest, what he was protesting for. But he could have seriously hurt somebody. And even killed someone. So he has to be punished for that. But let's keep going.
Lou, live for us there in Los Angeles. Thank you.
Thank you for watching.
Let's go over into this next video and see what else we can learn.
President Trump says the U.S. is considering military strikes in Iran after weeks of anti-government protests there. Those violent protests have left more than 500 people dead. And over the weekend, a protest in Westwood took a violent turn when a U-Haul truck drove into a crowd of demonstrators. KTLA's Eric Spillman in the newsroom with the latest. Eric, good morning.
Morning, Jessica. L.A. has a large Iranian-American population. They're mostly people who left Iran just prior to the revolution of 1979. They support the demonstrations that are taking place in Iran right now. They oppose the Ayatollahs who control the country. Yesterday, they were having a demonstration in Westwood when all of a sudden it was interrupted by a man driving a U-Haul. Somehow, a man behind the wheel of a large U-Haul box truck managed to get through the barricades near the Federal Building on Wilshire Boulevard. He stepped on the gas and attempted to plow through a crowd of roughly 3,000 people who were there to voice their opposition to the Iranian regime. People screamed and jumped out of the way while others chased after the truck to try and get it to stop. When it finally did, the crowd attacked the driver with flagpoles and tried to beat him. Police eventually arrested the man. They say he may face a charge of assault with a deadly weapon. Amazingly, police say he only hit 2 people and neither one needed to be taken to the hospital for treatment. People at the rally say the truck had banners on it with messages of support for Iran's authoritarian rulers. The crowd ripped them down and pounded and kicked the vehicle before smashing the passenger side window. In all that chaos, police say the driver did suffer some injuries. Now, up until that happened, the event had been peaceful. People had gathered with flags and signs to show solidarity with anti-government protesters in Iran. They're hoping the demonstrations there will lead to the overthrow of the Iranian regime.
I'm trying to figure out what he expected. It was either only 2 options. Either he was just trying to make a stunt and he was never planning to really hurt someone, or I'm assuming he could have hurt a lot more people. That is my thing. He could have hurt a lot more people if he would have just straight drove through. Luckily, it sounded like he had some kind of morals where he didn't just fly through, because it could have been a deadly scene. Could have been a very deadly scene. How do you expect the other protesters to react? You just drove a bus, don't caring if you hit somebody, because he obviously hit 2 people. Luckily, they weren't injured. But how do you expect them to react? Immediately started breaking the windows, trying to stomp on them. I can understand that reaction. Let's keep going.
Every time people go out to complain, they cut the internet and they start slaughtering people. And we're here to tell President Donald Trump this is the time to back people up.
We're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it, and we're looking at some very strong options.
President on Air Force One saying he's considering military strikes against Iran. These scenes from Tehran show families at a morgue trying to identify relatives in body bags. By some estimates, as many as 2,000 people have been killed in the government's bloody crackdown against the unrest there. 10,000 people have been arrested, and the regime has shut down the internet and phone lines. The protests in Iran started last month over the collapse of the country's currency. The unrest has spread to every one of Iran's provinces. The country's parliamentary leader warns that if the U.S. intervenes, Iran may strike back at American military bases or ships, or that it may target Israel. However, at the same time, President Trump says Iran has sent a message that it wants to talk.
We may meet with them. I mean, a meeting is being set up, but we may have to act because of what's happening before the meeting. But a meeting is being set up. Iran called, they want to negotiate.
President Trump says he will meet with his advisors tomorrow to discuss the options on Iran. The Wall Street Journal is reporting the choices include military strikes, using secret cyber weapons, and more sanctions.
Breaking news, a deadly mass shooting.
We'll get over that later, but it's a crazy situation when the government shuts down. It's crazy to think about. The government shuts down the internet when there are people making their opinions known. No freedom of speech. Remember, this ain't the U.S. now. No freedom of speech. It's a crazy situation, and they kill the protesters. The question is, what will the U.S. do? Will they act, or will they wait for the meeting? It's a crazy situation no matter what. But let's go over into, how I like to do the AI breakdown so we can see anything else that we missed from the U-Haul plowing through the LA protesters. So like I said, it happened yesterday. The U-Haul drove through a large crowd of protesters. The demonstration is estimated to have 1,000 participants. And they were in support of anti-government protests in Iran. So the collision at approximately 3:30 p.m., the U-Haul driver reportedly bypassed the barricades and accelerated into a crowd. Video footage showed the demonstrators screaming and scrambling to avoid the vehicle. The truck was reportedly plastered with posters expressing support of the Iranian regime and opposing the Shah. Protesters were seen ripping these signs off the vehicles as it moved through the crowd. So amazingly, like they said, only 2 people were reported struck, and neither sustained life-threatening injuries. So after the truck was blocked, members of the crowd swarmed the vehicle, smashed the passenger side window, and kicked the windshield. Some protesters used flagpoles and other objects to strike the vehicle and the driver. So the Los Angeles Police Department detained the unidentified driver. The driver suffered some injuries during the confrontation with the crowd and escorted away by the police. The FBI is currently working with the LAPD to determine his motives. So it's what kind of charges might he face? So I remember they mentioned assault with a deadly weapon. So you got reckless driving, assault with a deadly weapon, attempted assault with a deadly weapon, and other additional charges. The driver was detained and taken into custody after being treated for minor injuries sustained during the confrontation. He is currently being held without bail, while witnesses reported the truck was covered in pro-regime political messages. So it doesn't sound like he tried to stop it all, because look at this one statement here. He reportedly bypassed the barricades and accelerated into the crowd. So he didn't care if you lived or died. He was trying to make his stunt, his own violent, I would say maybe protest, you could call it a protest or violent demonstration, and trying to bring coverage to that, because he didn't care who he hurt. And that's the biggest way to make your voice known. Cause damage, mass fear, mass casualties. That's how you make, it's awful, but that's how the news picks up what you're trying to say. It's a crazy situation. It's a crazy situation, but let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a crazy situation. We're going to have to cover more of the Iran protests. We're going to have to cover more. I'm probably looking at that tomorrow, but it's a crazy situation, y'all. Absolutely crazy situation. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you have anything you want to say. Absolutely crazy. Absolutely crazy. But we're going to pivot over into our next topic we're going to be discussing today. We got to go over to Mississippi. We got to go to Mississippi, where they ended up having a mass shooting. I believe 6 people were killed. So we're going to get over into that. We got a few videos to look at. There are some demons in this world. I've said this plenty of times. There are some demons in this world. But we got to review this world together. We have to review this world together. Let's get over into it. See what we can find out.
Breaking news, a deadly mass shooting in Mississippi near the Alabama border. 6 people killed at 3 separate locations, and overnight a 7-year-old girl is among the victims. What we've just learned about the suspect, now in custody. Here's ABC's Alex Prochet.
Tonight, authorities say that this man, Derricka Moore, is behind one of the worst shootings in state history, leaving 6 people dead, including a 7-year-old girl.
There's some cases just that they've got to get the worst punishment.
The Clay County Sheriff says the suspect's trail of terror began just before 7 last night when the 24-year-old alleged gunman shot and killed his father, Glenn Moore, Uncle Willie Ed Guinness, and older brother Quentin Moore inside a home. Then he allegedly stole his brother's F-150 pickup, drove to another home, and forced himself inside, where they say he attempted a sexual battery with a handgun before killing a 7-year-old relative. He then allegedly drove to a third home, where they say he shot and killed 2 brothers, Barry and Samuel Bradley. Moore was later taken into custody without incident.
Hold on. First thing I gotta say, he's 24 years old. 24. There's certain places in where there are people like this need to go.
Barry and Samuel Bradley. Moore was later taken into custody without incident.
This family, to lose this many family members, at one setting, it's just hard to imagine. So that's the reason I'm saying they definitely need our prayers.
Wait, tonight authorities say that they are still searching for potential motive in what is now the deadliest mass shooting of 2026.
So I wonder if they were all his family. So because he allegedly shot, killed father, uncle, and brother. I don't know. This is crazy. Let's go over to this next video and see what else we can find out.
Was the 7-year-old, not identifying that one. Yeah, Glenn Moore, age 67. Willie Ed Guinness, age 55. Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley do not have their ages.
We are following breaking news tonight. A devastating mass shooting in northeast Mississippi is rocking a tight-knit community. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeremy Pierre. 6 people are dead in Clay County, Mississippi, including a 7-year-old girl, after investigators say a man went on a violent rampage. Fox 13's Rosalind Freeman traveled to Clay County, Mississippi today to gather new details about the suspect and the victims.
This was not one isolated shooting. Investigators say it was a violent series of events that ended 6 lives. The shooting that started right here, which included members of the suspect's own family, and shattered a community still searching for answers. According to Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott, the first shooting happened before 7 p.m. Friday at a home on David Hill Road. Investigators say the suspect, Dereka Moore, allegedly shot and killed 3 family members inside the home. Authorities identified the victims as Moore's father, Glenn Moore, and his uncle, Willie Guinness, and his brother, Quentin Moore. Investigators say all 3 were shot in the head. Deputies say Moore then stole his brother's pickup truck, drove to another home on Blake Road, where investigators say a 7-year-old girl was shot and killed. Authorities say the child was related to the suspect, though her name has not been released. Investigators believe Moore then drove to a third location on Sloan Griffith Road. There, deputies discovered the bodies of Barry Bradley and Samuel Bradley, who investigators say were also shot in the head. At this time, authorities say it is unclear whether the Bradleys had any connection to Moore. Law enforcement later captured Moore at the intersection of Pine Grove Road and Joe Myers Road, driving a vehicle investigators say was stolen from the Sloan Griffith Road home. By just 3 a.m., Moore was taken into custody.
So he kills 4 of his own family members and then kills 2 other. I'm assuming it's related to him somehow, or he knows them somehow. I don't think it was just random. If he planned to kill his 4 family members and then I've said this plenty of times, there are demons in this world. And they can be your own family members. We got to be honest about it. They can be your own family members. Let's keep going.
It really shook me because this is the worst one I've seen in 10 years. It's the worst one. I mean, 6 people, innocent lives taken, just horrific. And as the sheriff said, these charges are going to be upgraded to capital murder.
Moore is currently charged with first-degree murder, though the prosecution say they're still working to upgrade those charges to capital murder. For now, in Clay County, Rosalind Freeman, Fox 13 News.
Now, I'm not really sure what's the difference between capital murder and first-degree murder. We'll look into that when we get into the AI breakdown. But let's go over into this next video where we hear from the family members. So let's get over into it.
An investigation continues into a man accused of shooting and killing 6 people, including a 7-year-old child in Mississippi. Family members are now speaking out after the incident. Kamari Hamer has more.
When they first told me, I just couldn't believe it. When they said it was my brother, I was really shocked about it. Didn't want to believe that he had got killed.
Kimberly Moore and Versie Jennings are still in shock after hearing the news about the death of their family members and the identity of the suspect. Clay County Sheriff Eddie Scott tells WCBI 24-year-old Derica Moore shot and killed 67-year-old Glenn Moore, 55-year-old Willie Gins, 33-year-old Quentin Moore at this home on David Hill Road. All 3 victims were related to the shooter. Moore then allegedly stole a Ford F-150 that belonged to Quentin Moore. It is believed that the shooter then traveled to Blake Road and forced his way into this home and attempted to sexually assault someone. While he was there, Moore reportedly shot and killed a 7-year-old girl who was also his second cousin.
It really is a sad situation. I really don't know what the causing of this. We all just need prayer at this time.
The killing continued. Clay County investigators say Moore left in the stolen truck and drove to this home on Salome Griffith Road. Deputies found the stolen truck behind the home, signs of forced entry, and the bodies of Barry and Samuel Bradley.
We all lift our hearts in prayer for the victims and families. Again, this is really shaking our community. And for me, almost 30 years in this is one of the toughest ones we had to work.
The suspect had no prior history with law enforcement, and at this time, there's no clear motive behind the crime spree.
That's crazy, because it's crazy to think about that he had no prior history with law enforcement. But that just goes to show you, anyone, no matter if they've known the law enforcement or not, can be so deranged where they would murder 6 people. But let's get over into this. It sounds like she was saying something about mental health.
With law enforcement, and at this time, there's no clear motive behind the crime spree.
Mental illness, that's something serious that we as a family should take, try to check on our people because, like I said, we really don't know what happened and what the situation is, but it was just a family dispute, and we asking for prayer.
Moore
Let's finish up.
is being charged with first-degree murder. That charge is expected to be upgraded to capital murder. More charges.
So we got the gist of everything. Let me say something. Is mental health a problem? Yes. Yes, mental health is a clear problem. But I don't like to, once we get so far into like they killed 6 people, there's not much different in, at the end of the day, they need to be locked up for life. If there's no chance that he should be able to get out because they say he's rehabilitated, he's off his meds, or something like that. He's on the right medication. Once you taken that step to murder or do something horrible like that, your mental faculty, if your mental illness or not, you can no longer be out here with the regular public. At least that's my opinion. Tell me if you think I'm wrong, but I am fine with people having mental illnesses, but you can't be like, oh, well, he had a mental illness, he was treated, so he should be released. He's doing better now. No, he's already done the damage, so he has to face the punishment for a mental illness or not. At least that's my thinking. Let's get over into the AI breakdown and see what else we can learn from this whole situation. So let's jump over into it and see what we can find out. So on Friday, January 9th, a series of shootings happened in Clay County, Mississippi, resulting in 6 dead, including a 7-year-old girl. So we already know the identity of the suspect. 24-year-old, I'm not even going to say, Moore was arrested and charged in connection with the killing. So he pleaded not guilty during his first court appearance today, and he is currently held without bond. Potential sentence. So the district attorney office stated that they would seek the death penalty if the case is eligible for capital murder. So I did have a question. What's the difference between first degree and capital murder? So it seems, based on my searches, capital murder. So let me read it out. So the primary difference between capital murder and first degree murder is the potential punishment. So as capital murder is a specific type of first degree murder offense that is eligible for the death penalty. So in order for a suspect to get the death penalty, they have to be charged with capital murder, which is a type of first degree murder. Okay. So we go through the victims. So we got Glenn Moore, the suspect's father. We got Quentin Moore, the suspect's brother. Willie Ed Guinness, the suspect's uncle. Makia Guinness, the suspect's cousin. Reverend Barry Bradley, pastor of the Apostles Church of the Lord Jesus. And Samuel Bradley, the pastor's brother. He killed a pastor too? He's making his bed with the Lord. So the timeline of the event. So it started around 7 p.m. Like we know, where he killed his father, brother, and uncle, stole their car, went to his cousin's home where he allegedly tried to sexually assault before fatally shooting his 7-year-old. So he tried to sexually assault the 7-year-old before he shot her. He also allegedly held a gun to another child's head, but that child was not harmed. Church ground. So the suspect then drove to the Apostolic Church. I might be saying that, Apostolic Church of the Lord Jesus, where he broke into the residence and killed the pastor and his brother before stealing another vehicle. And he was caught around 11:24 p.m. Authorities have not identified the motives for the shooting spree. So what is his connection to the church? See if they have any connection. So his connection to the church, it primarily appears through his family and proximity. So the family, so the Clay County sheriffs stated that several members of the Moore family attended the church where the final two victims were killed. So he has some prior dealings with them, possible personal connections. While the investigation has not confirmed a direct relationship between Moore and the Bradleys, authorities has indicated that the Moore may have known the pastor. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. In my opinion, mental health or not, well, mental health, if he is a serious mental, like something seriously wrong mentally with him, and they get to use that in their defense, that would be the turning point for if it can be capital murder or for just first degree murder. Because one holds a death penalty, one is life in prison. If he's truly mentally ill and they prove that, then life in prison. And I'm fine with that. Like I said, no matter what, his life he has to be out of the public for the rest of his life. It's a crazy situation. Hopefully we get more details on his connection with the church of the pastor to see why he killed them. But overall, it's a crazy situation, y'all. Let me know your thoughts on it. Let me know if you disagree with anything I said. You never know. It can be your own family members who do some crazy stuff. Absolutely crazy, y'all. Like I said, let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. World is a crazy place. But we're going to pivot over into the next topic we're going to go over to. And that is, we got the Ohio murder. So I don't know if y'all remember, but a couple was murdered where they were found dead in their homes. The children and the dog were left unharmed. And they were searching for the killer. but an arrest has been made, and it was found none other to be the wife's ex-husband, or that's who they suspect to be the killer is. So we're going to go over into that and get a little bit more details about this whole situation. Overall, it's a tragic situation. Tragic situation. Let's get over into it and see what we can find out. See if they give us any more details about it. So let's jump into it.
This shocking twist in the double homicide of an Ohio dentist and his wife that happened just before New Year's. A suspect now charged and arrested, and we are learning he was previously married to one of the victims. Michael McKee is now facing 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of Spencer and Monique Tepe. Now, he is Monique's ex-husband. The couple was found fatally shot in their Ohio home while their 2 children and the dog were unharmed inside. Police were able to zero in on him as a suspect because of surveillance video in the neighborhood around the time the couple was murdered. Now, from those videos, they tracked McKee's vehicle, finding it in Rockford, Illinois. McKee is expected to appear in court in Illinois tomorrow, Monday. A new development tonight, a community coming together to honor Spencer and Monique for their funeral that took place today. And for more, we are joined by Jennifer Coffendorfer tonight, law and justice contributor for News Nation and former special agent with the FBI. Jennifer, thanks for joining us on this case.
Thanks for having me.
And one of the details early on in this investigation, both the children were found physically unharmed inside of the house. No signs of forced entry at that home. What does that information immediately indicate about the person who did this?
They knew.
Well, it indicated certainly that they knew this couple well, that they had staked out the location well. It was also very clear they knew where the camera locations were because they evaded a lot of camera coverage, it would seem. And so somehow he came across that entry code to enter the residence.
McKee himself, a vascular surgeon in Illinois and California, according to the Columbus Dispatch. His medical license record showing no disciplinary history or no malpractice there. And then his criminal records only showing traffic-related tickets in the past. He has been charged. He has not been convicted. Are you surprised by the previous profile of this suspect?
Not really. When I look at this case, we knew it was going to be very personal for somebody to go up in the bedroom and kill these individuals with a gun. So we knew it was very personal, somebody who knew them. What is interesting, though, this divorce happened about 9 years ago. They were married for such a brief time, only 7 months. And so that is strange, but I think it was a deep-seated resentment and hate that just built up and finally came to this conclusion.
And we know that
9 years. 9 years he went by. This just building up, and he ends up killing his ex-wife and her new husband.
murders happened just before the couple was about to celebrate an anniversary. I mean, is there anything to that timing that is significant or jumping out to you?
I think it could be. You know, when I look back at the Brown University shootings, Natasha, remember that individual, now that we have his sort of manifesto of why he did it, he had a deep-seated resentment that stayed with him for 3 years. I think that this could be a situation that's very similar, that it just built up over time and finally came to a head. And probably that anniversary could have been part of the reason.
Talk to me.
That is a crazy situation. Absolutely crazy. Let's get over into this next video. I feel like we got the gist of this video, but let's hear some more chilling possible motives that the New York Post came up with.
We continue to follow a double homicide in Columbus that has drawn national attention.
After an Ohio dentist and his wife were gruesomely gunned down just 2 weeks after their 5th wedding anniversary, there was one question on everyone's mind: why? Now, an ex-FBI agent is suggesting that a years-long, deep-seated resentment and hatred is to blame for the sickening act, as the couple's grieving family reveals they are not surprised by an arrest in the case. Here's what you need to know. Spencer Tepe and his wife Monique were found dead in their Columbus home on December 30th, soon after celebrating their anniversary, authorities said. Spencer, who was 37 years old, suffered multiple gunshot wounds, while Monique, who was 39, was shot at least once in the chest, according to police records. Their 2 children, a 4-year-old daughter and a 1-year-old son, were...
Now that says something to me, just the fact that the husband was shot so many times and she was shot so little. Sounds to me he had a lot of hatred towards the husband, but that's just my opinion.
Found unharmed inside the home. The violent attack happened between 2 and 5 a.m. in the upstairs of the home, cops said. No gun was discovered at the scene, and there was no sign of forced entry. Chilling 911 calls offered further insight into the horrific scene as frantic friends who rushed to the house for a wellness check saw a bloodied body and heard a child scream. And Spencer's employer called 911 after becoming alarmed that he hadn't shown up for work.
This individual, Spencer, works with me, and he did not show up to work this morning, and we cannot get a hold of him or his family. Like, he is always on time, and he would contact us if there was any issues whatsoever. I just don't know how else to say this. Like, we're very, very concerned because this is very out of character.
As police searched for a suspect, they released eerie surveillance footage showing a person of interest walking down an alley near the couple's home around the time of the killings, though Spencer's brother-in-law soon poured cold water on the importance of the figure in an interview with News Nation.
I do think, suspicious looking person there. It also very well could be, somebody walking home drunk from a bar.
Then finally, on Saturday, January 10th, authorities announced a break. Police had arrested a suspect in the murders, Monique's ex-husband, Michael David McKee. Columbus investigators reportedly tracked a vehicle that arrived in the Wayland Park neighborhood where the couple lived before the double killing and later left for Rockford, Illinois, and identified that McKee owned the car. McKee worked as a vascular surgeon in a practice in the Rockford area where his vehicle was found. The 39-year-old doctor from Chicago married Monique in 2015. She then filed for divorce in May 2017 before marrying Spencer in 2020. While court records indicate the divorce was amicable, an ex-FBI agent has now raised a theory that McKee's anger was quietly brewing the entire time.
They were married for such a brief time, only 7 months. And so that is strange, but I think it was a deep-seated resentment and hate that just built up and finally came to this conclusion.
Meanwhile, the couple's families say they are not surprised by the arrest, with a relative revealing to the Daily Mail that they all expected the husband was to blame, but noted that they stayed mum throughout the probe so they wouldn't compromise the investigation. It was absolutely not a shock to anybody, the unidentified family member said.
Crazy situation, absolutely crazy. Let's see if there's anything else in this next video.
After the double murder of a husband and wife in Ohio, police think they have their man, and they say the accused is one of the victim's ex-husband. CBS News correspondent Chanel Call following this story. Chanel, by all accounts, the man accused had an amicable divorce. Everybody moved on with their lives. So what do we know about this guy?
But look, Reed, that divorce happened 10 years ago, almost a decade ago. We don't know what may or may not have happened in the years since. At this point, police are saying that the person who is at the center of this investigation, this double homicide, is 39-year-old Michael McKee. As you noted there, they are saying that he is the ex-husband of Monique Tepe. Monique and Spencer were both killed in their Columbus, Ohio home almost 2 weeks ago. As we understand it, their 2 young children were also inside that home, Reed. Obviously, just such a tragic story. Police do say, though, those kids are alive and unharmed, thankfully. But this all came to light because some of their friends came over to do a wellness check on them because Spencer had not shown up to work. So they went over, and that is...
We got the gist of everything. Let's go into the AI breakdown. I feel like we understand all what's happening right now. So let's jump over into that and see what else we can find out. So let's get over into this. So as I said, we're going to look at the AI breakdown. Whoop, wrong thing right there. So Michael McKee, 39, was arrested for the double murder, Spencer and Monique. So the police conducted a well. We know all that. So the investigation used neighbor surveillance footage to identify a vehicle near the scene at the time of the murder. The vehicle was traced to Rockford, Illinois, where McGee was apprehended without incident. He initially faced 2 counts of murder, which were upgraded to premeditated aggravated murder by on today. He appeared in the court to begin extradition back to Ohio. Let's see. So I did want to know why they get divorced. So while the specific incident was not cited, the court records show that Monique and Michael divorced in June 2017 on the grounds of incompatibility. So the details from the 2017 divorce filings include a brief marriage. So the couple was married in August 2015, but they lived together for only about 7 months before separating in March 2016. At the time of the divorce filing, they were already living in different states, and Monique resided in Ohio while McGee was in Virginia completing his medical residency. The final decree required Monique to pay McGee about $1,300 for reimbursement of some debt. So amicable. So at the time of the split, everything appeared typical and very amicable, with no children involved and no reports of major conflicts or domestic abuse on the record. So the investigators are currently looking into any deep-seated resentment or hidden issues from the past relationship that could serve as motives from this 2025 murder. It's a crazy situation. 9-10 years? They think this was building up in him for 9 or 10 years to where he just snapped and killed his ex-wife and her new husband a couple days after their wedding anniversary. And it makes sense that the children weren't hurt because it wasn't a random attack. He knew who he was attacking. And that's the reason he shot the husband multiple times and only shot his ex-wife a few times. He was angry at that man for taking what was his, or having what was his. I'm assuming that's how he felt. But we'll have to wait for more details to come out. Overall, it's a crazy situation. But it sounds like the family of the victims, that's who they already had in mind, but they didn't want to say anything because they didn't want to mess up the investigation. A crazy situation, y'all. Absolutely crazy. Let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. Absolutely crazy. But let's pivot over into the last thing we're going to be talking about today. The last thing, we're getting a little lighter. So we got the nurses' strike. So the New York City nurses' strike, where it looks like over 15,000 nurses are on strike. It's a bad day to be in New York hospitals. But let's go over into the videos and see what we can find out about this situation. I mean, we all know nurses don't get paid enough for the things they deal with. Just look at I was just watching this show, but watch the show The Pit. Tells you exactly what they deal with. They said that's a very accurate show of what's happening in the medical rooms or in the emergency room. So let's get over into this video and see what we can find out about this whole situation. Let's jump into it.
This morning, 15,000 New York City nurses hitting the picket line in what is considered the largest nurses' strike in the city's history. Union members walking out of several private hospitals across the city at 6 this morning.
We need fair contracts now because I know that people are going to suffer, and that is not what we want.
In response, hospitals like Mount Sinai say they have hired more than 1,000 agency nurses to help combat disruptions to care.
The important, I think, piece to be mindful of is that we have spent lots and lots of time bringing in additional support to make sure that the responsible care of patients remains a priority.
Nurses say they are seeking better staffing ratios, protection of benefits, pay increases, and workplace security guarantees, with the union pointing to recent shootings at city hospitals.
Right now, working as a nurse in a hospital, you are danger everywhere.
On Friday, the governor of New York, Kathy Hochul, declaring a state of emergency. This morning saying she's happy 11 hospital systems have reached agreements, and she's sending New York Department of Health staff to the 3 striking hospital systems to monitor and ensure patient safety. All of this comes as flu numbers across the country are reaching record levels. 41 states, including New York, are seeing high or very high flu activity.
The healthcare system will be there to make sure that people's needs are met.
For the millions of people here in New York City, patient care should not be affected, so the hospitals say people should not delay or avoid getting help in a medical emergency, George.
Okay, Rhiannon, thanks.
Well, you can certainly
Let's get over into this next video.
hear it all around us, and this has been the scene since before sunrise. Now, these nurses are out on the picket lines because they say things aren't happening inside, and there's never a good time to have this many essential workers off the job. But these nurses say they are prepared to stay on the picket lines until what they say are essential demands are met.
Now you got to think. Remember what a strike is. That means they're stopping going to work, and they're stopping getting a paycheck. They're going through, they're risking hopefully they're in a good position financially, which is hard to say for a lot of people, but they're not getting a paycheck in most of these cases. I don't think if you're striking, you don't get a paycheck now tell me if I'm wrong now. So they gotta be very desperate to go through this. But let's keep going to this video.
Nurses inside Mount Sinai who are actually on duty joined their colleagues who cheered them on from the picket lines once the strike started at 6 a.m. Nurses from 5 major hospitals in the city are on strike. That's Mount Sinai Morningside, Mount Sinai West, Montefiore, and New York Presbyterian Hospital. A union representing the nurses tells us that negotiations with the head of those hospital systems stalled over what they called unfair labor practices, with demands like higher pay and safer working conditions. They're the kind of demands similar to the last major nursing strike in the city in 2023. That stoppage lasted for 3 days and resulted in a deal that raised pay by 19%. This strike comes after an incident just last week where a man wielding a sharp object was shot and killed by police at New York Presbyterian Brooklyn Methodist Hospital after barricading himself inside of a room with 2 others.
We're fighting for safe staffing. We deserve health care, especially as healthcare workers. Patient safety. Safety for us, there's a lot of violence in the workplace. And patient safe staffing ratios.
There have been improvements since our last strike, but there's still more progress to have been made. And there's been discussions about them possibly wanting to take that away from us. They want to take back a lot of the things that we were able to progress on with the last strike. So a lot of this is not even just for progress, but also maintaining what we fought for in our last strike.
Mount Sinai issued a statement saying, in part, quote, "Unfortunately, NYSNA decided to move forward with its strike while refusing to move on from its extreme economic demands, which we cannot agree to. But we are ready with 1,400 qualified and specialized nurses and prepared to continue to provide safe patient care for as long as the strike continues." Let's go ahead and bring you back live, and we're going to walk.
Now it's a crazy thing to think about. Because thinking about the hospital and thinking about if you ever gone to the hospital with the bills that you get from the hospital, they're making a lot of money. Doctors make good money, or some of them, I would think. Most doctors make good money. But the nurses, it sounds like they don't get what they think is fair at the end of the day. But I for sure know them hospital bills be big whenever they send it to your mail. So the money's going somewhere, or maybe the machines, or it's understandable that the nurses want more money, especially in times like this with the economy and prices getting higher and higher. And they feel like they're not being respected for the work that they do, especially since that whole thing with them not being considered professionals. But let's keep going.
Around because you see them wearing their trademark red. They have their signs on. They're whistling. They have support from the city buses, the FDNY, and others as they get by. And we do know that Governor Kathy Hochul has issued an emergency declaration to help with staffing shortages as this strike continues. But these are folks who say they're going to stay on the job as long as it takes. We're live in the Upper East Side this morning. Tracy Strahan, News 4 New York.
Tracy, thank you. And News 4's Romney Smith is at New York Presbyterian Columbia Hospital in Washington Heights with another show of support where Mayor Mamdani and other elected officials are at that rally in support of the nurses. Romney.
That's right. We know that there are several political heavyweights that are throwing their support behind so many of these nurses that are on strike right now. Now, we know New York City's mayor, Zohran Mamdani, speaking to the crowd of healthcare professionals, lending his support, saying while he's monitoring the situation, he firmly believes that nurses should not have to accept less pay, fewer benefits, or less dignity while performing life-saving work. In addition to Mamdani, today's speakers also included New York Attorney General Letitia James and the borough presidents from Manhattan, Queens, Brooklyn, and more. Now, nurses here tell us that they appreciate the political support and hope that it will influence ongoing negotiations in their favor. Mamdani and other leaders all echoing that the goal is to reach a resolution that respects nurses and keeps hospitals open.
This strike is not just a question of how much nurses earn per hour or what health benefits they receive, although both of those issues matter deeply. It is also a question of who deserves to benefit from this system. There is no shortage of wealth in the healthcare industry, especially so at the 3 privately operated hospital groups at which nurses are striking, the wealthiest in the entire city.
Now, as you can clearly see behind me, there are so many nurses wearing red, holding signs, and making a lot of noise in support of their ongoing efforts. This strike will continue until a resolution is reached. Once we learn the terms of that, we'll of course share that with you both on air and online. We are live in Washington Heights. Romney Smith, News 4 New York.
Now, the question still remains, will they give in to the demands? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But just like how they have more people coming in for the people who are striking, there are going to be people who will accept the pay that they offer, especially in the times that we are in now. They'll take the stares of the people who strike and they'll just go and do their job and work. But do nurses deserve more money for the job that they do? Yes. Just like I think teachers deserve more money for the job they do. But we'll have to wait and see if the higher ups, because ultimately it's up to the higher ups in the company to take a pay cut, or because the money's just not going to fall out of nowhere. All the money gets distributed. So somebody has to take a pay cut. At least that's my thinking. Let's go over into the AI breakdown, because I like to do that to see anything else we might learn from this whole situation. So like I said, it's approximately 15,000 nurses are striking in New York. So the impacted hospitals are Mount Sinai, Montefiore, I'm not a good name, and the New York Presbyterian. Yeah, those 3 hospitals. So the core issues that they're demanding, so safe staffing ratios. So the nurses claim that hospitals are retreating from the staffing guarantees won in the 2023 strike, leading to dangerous patient-to-nurse workload. Understandable? So following recent violent incidents at local hospitals, the union are demanding enhanced security measures and behavioral health rapid response teams. Understandable, because people are getting violence. Health benefits and pay. So the union is fighting proposed cuts to the healthcare coverage and seeking wage increase to keep pace with the cost of living. Another thing I can understand. So the hospital administration have characterized the strike as reckless and unnecessary, noting that they have prepared with approximately 1,400 temporary agency nurses and spent millions of dollars on contingency plans. So like I said, the higher ups are going to find people who work. How many they can find is the question. is it going to be enough to come back the strike? But I'm assuming they're hoping that the strike doesn't last long. Why? Because some people need to make money. People can only go so long without getting a paycheck. But so we got Mandani, so he has expressed his public support like we've seen. And then Governor Cathy also signed a 2-week executive order to provide hospitals with emergency resources. So what is the current status of the state? So right now it's an indefinite strike. The hospitals remain open and utilizing the approximately 1,400 temporary travel nurses, which they are getting paid. Travel nurses, I know, get paid a lot of money. I've heard about that all the time. Absolutely crazy situation, y'all. But right now, 15,000 nurses across New York are striking because they want certain changes. They want to keep the changes that they won from the last strike, and also get more because of the cost of living increase and just different things that are happening in the United States now. What are your thoughts on that whole situation, y'all? Do you agree with I always do that backwards. Do you agree with the strike of the nurses? Do you think they deserve more money? Or do you think they get what they get and they should be fine with it? Tell me your thoughts on that whole situation, y'all. Absolutely crazy situation. But that is what... Hey, you strike when you want to when you want to get different results in any kind of company. Some companies will put up with it, some companies won't. You just have to wait and see. It's a crazy situation, y'all. Like I said, let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. But that is it for the show today, y'all. Thank you for watching now. Thank you for watching later. We talk about a lot of crazy things. It is Monday, the January 12th, beginning of the week. And remember, y'all, this is the greatest. I'm going to keep saying it until y'all say it with me. This is the greatest afternoon show we got. The greatest afternoon show. At least that's my opinion. You ain't got to agree with it. But remember, y'all, this is AC Reviews the World, and I am your host, AC the Engineer. These videos will be broken down so you can see the exact one you want. We got to pray for the world, y'all. We got to pray for the world. We got to pray for the people in it. But that is what we do here. We review the world together. Thank y'all for watching. You already know I got to play the outro. But that is it for now. I will see y'all tomorrow, where we talk about some more crazy things. That's it for now, y'all. Peace.